Hello, everybody. It's Graham. It's Wow Ergonomics. It's Friday. It's midday. That's the time that we do this every week. Hope you're all well. Guess what? It's nearly Christmas. And Stephen has discovered the problem that has been bugging us, or bugging him, for the last couple of weeks, haven't you?
Wi-Fi.
The Wi-Fi.
The Wi-Fi.
The
Basically, at the last couple of shows, the Wi-Fi. The last couple of shows, I've had to pause my picture, which a lot of people will be happy about, because it was really off-putting that it was sort of, there's gremlins here. Now it's your camera.
No, it's fine.
Is it sorted? Anyway. Yeah. So basically, it was all to do with the Wi-Fi, picking up a booster that was in the loft, and therefore it was slowing my Wi-Fi. And therefore, when I was talking, the visual was 5 seconds behind the actual talking, and it was really off-putting. And I did say after last week's show, Graham, I will get it sorted, and I've got it sorted so far.
Yeah.
So far, so good.
Basically, yeah, it was just moving a box, etc.
Yes.
Yeah.
That easy.
So for the last few weeks, if you've been watching, you will have seen that Stephen either looked like a dot on the screen or like this.
Yeah.
There you are. That was Stephen, not moving at all on the screen.
No.
That was a model I made. That's a model I made of you. Did you like that?
Oh, thank you.
That's
very accurate,
good, isn't it?
Yeah, very good.
Also, because I know a lot of people on LinkedIn are really crazy about Lego.
Yes.
Don't really know why. I've acquired a Lego figure as well, which
have you?
That apparently represents me in its entirety. There we go.
Oh, I can see the resemblance.
Can you see that?
Yeah, looks just like you. Just like you.
Just like me. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny, isn't it? That look at that face. Oh, it's Friday.
Oh, it's definitely you. Angry. Yeah. No, that's not you. You're never angry. I don't think I've ever seen you angry. That's actually a very false representation of you.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. It's like, like in the original Lego movie. It's like that, because you can twist the head round and then it's like.
Yes. That's more like it.
Isn't it? All of those people out there in HR land are now thinking, wouldn't that be great if we could actually do that with people that we have a problem with?
Or just turn their heads round.
Turn their heads round, and and like Grumpy becomes Mr. Happy. That would be great, wouldn't it?
Where are you with Lego in your household? Because you've got younger children than mine. So is Lego still a Christmas thing?
Yeah, Lego. Actually, our youngest got a Lego calendar this year.
Oh,
I think it's the Lego Marvel calendar.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I'm going to say this: bits of it are okay, and then bits of it are just, bit not so good. When they get a character, that's quite good. But then when they get like a bit of Lego that's like, it just looks like a bit of plastic.
Is it not? I was assuming it was 24 stroke 25, depending on the calendar. Characters. So there's not. It's disappointing.
That is disappointing, isn't it? I'd rather pay a bit more and it be 25 characters, to be honest. Well, when I say a bit more, they'd have to remortgage the house. Anyway, do
you reckon Rory Berry's got one? Do you reckon he's got a Lego advent calendar?
Yeah, I reckon he has.
Got to. I reckon he's got two.
If actually, there's a good conversation starter. If anyone wants to tell us what kind of advent calendar they got this year, did anyone get an Ergonomics advent calendar? Did anyone out there that's a ergonomic sales company think about doing an Ergonomics advent calendar? That would be quite interesting. You could have a different peripheral. There's a good word. Different peripheral a day.
That's a flipping big calendar,
isn't it? Massive.
What did you get? You've opened the question. What calendar? What did you get?
I'll go and get it whilst I bring our guest on. So say hello to Rebecca, who's back for the second time. Here we go, Rebecca.
Hi.
What kind of calendar did you get? While I go and get mine.
I didn't get one. So if anybody wants to send me a calendar, that'd be fantastic. I didn't actually get one this year. My little girl got a Bueno one.
Right.
And I didn't get one.
Oh, here we go.
So Graham, if you want to send me one.
Oh, I've lost me. There we go.
Yeah, there you go.
It lost me field of vision again. It's probably the twinkly lights doing that. You see?
Yes, I think it is.
And I forgot that obviously by moving, I'd excite the dog,
Right.
who we were talking about just before we came on there
Yeah,
as well, because he's been struggling with his back legs this week, which happens a lot with Dutch hounds. But yeah, he's been to see a specialist today. It's good money, isn't it? 5 minutes, 300 quid. Yeah.
Not if you're paying. It's not good.
If you're paying. It ain't good, right? But it was avoiding the MRI scan. How much do you think the MRI scan would have cost? Was it 3 figures or 4 figures? 4.
Wow.
Yeah. 2,700 for an MRI scan. Yeah. Look at that. Look at that.
I would never have said that. Even guessing.
I looked at Rebecca's face because Rebecca was like, and then I looked up at Stephen's face, which was like,
all I'm thinking is, thank God I haven't got a dog.
Weird.
It's so expensive.
Anyway.
So what's your advent calendar then, Graham? You haven't shown us it.
My advent calendar is is a dog insurance advent calendar where every day you open the door and a bit more money falls out. It should be. No, my advent calendar is this, and the best way to do advent calendars, folks, is to buy them the day after Advent has started, obviously, because then the prices go down, which is what we did in this occasion as well. So my wife got me this from Asda. Hello, Asda. This was originally £14. Why? But was actually £2.50. Here we are. This is the Swizzle Sweet Shop.
Oh, nice.
That's so cool.
Isn't it cool?
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is wonderful. It's all of your old childhood favourites there, and you can even colour in something in the back if you've got time to colour in something.
Are you going to do that? Colour it in?
Of course he is.
I might do. Yeah.
Of course he is. Well, I got a Celebrations, and my youngest son got a Heroes. But we have this sort of rule that he's enforced that basically he opens the door on both calendars.
Yeah.
If his Heroes doesn't give him a sweet that he wants, he then gets to swap it for mine. So
what a great rule.
Yeah, so basically I get the lesser of the 2 sweets. Now, he did take the eclair the other day. That did surprise me, but he didn't want the Mars bar this morning. So I've I'm coming off a little bit worse in this deal. So basically he opens them both. He chooses the best sweet. I get the leftovers.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, that's what happens really with these boxes. Did anyone else watch the documentary that was on TV a few weeks ago, which was the history of the selection box, etc.?
No, missed that one.
So, folks, if you've got the time to do it, obviously listen to this podcast first, because but after that, if you're stuck for anything to do in an evening, and you haven't got time for that either, then try that documentary, which is fantastic. And what
channel was it on? Can you remember?
I can't. I think it was 5, but then I probably got that wrong. But what it did was it took you through like the history right from like the early days of Quality Street, when Quality Street tins were this big.
Oh yeah, they were deep tins, weren't they? They're not really this sort of big, skanky, this sort of stuff. So
none of the in 15 years' time, a Quality Street tin will be this big.
Yeah.
But once upon a time, it was that big, and it was full of chocolate. I mean, it literally was enough chocolate to get you over the year. Of course, it would go off very quickly as well because they didn't.
So you had to eat it.
So you had to eat it and get rid of that. But they took you from like the early days of that, and then they took you through like when all of the different rivals came in. So they took us through things like when After Eights came in, right? And that really hit the market,
right?
Because unbelievably, and it was like this air of sophistication around After Eights, and suddenly it was kind of like this kind of after the Christmas dinner. Well, we're not having that anymore. We're having a box of After
After
Eights to show
Eights.
that we're kind of really posh. And
They
then
are posh where you would get After Eights, I think, to be like, oh, I'm going all out to get some After Eights.
Yeah. And then into the war at one point. Guess what else came in? Guess what really shook the market at one point?
Oh, no idea.
Was it not a beauty calendar or something like that?
Think little gold balls.
Lint.
No.
Lint? No.
Ferrero Rocher.
A Ferrero Rocher.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember? Right. And when they came in, it was like, look at this, posh. Right. And everyone went, posh. Because there was kind of this posh battle going on for a while. And then these companies were really fighting against each other. Absolutely fighting against each other. Now, who was... I'm sorry, we will talk about ergonomics and
I'm really invested.
This is fascinating, right? Then, guess what happened? There was a player in the chocolate market that weren't there for ages and ages and ages, and suddenly made an appearance one year, and it changed the game. Do you know who it was and what it was?
Go on, give us a clue.
Yeah, just a clue.
Well, I think you may have mentioned them already.
Oh, here, Celebrations.
Yeah.
Celebrations.
And who's that made by?
Was it Mars?
Mars.
No, Mars.
Oh, right.
Mars were not in the market at all for years. Suddenly, one year, they looked at the market and went, hang on a minute. Why are we not in this market? And do you know what it came out of? Right, Mars had been playing around with the size of their bars for years, right? So they'd looked at, the person in charge had looked at it and gone, do you know what? We've done normal size Mars bars, we've done double size Mars bars, we've done mini Mars bars in packets and whatever. Hang on a minute, why don't we just make even smaller Mars bars?
Little mini brand.
Why don't we make minis of all of our brands and put them in a tub and call it Celebrations? Right? It annihilated the market.
I would love to know who was in that room who made that decision to go, I've got an idea. What about this? I would love to know who that was.
It outsold everything else in the market like 8 times over. It was it was so successful. So what happened the following year? Well, actually,
Heroes.
I think it was 2 years.
Cadbury's,
2 years later.
Cadbury's brought out Heroes.
Yeah. Cadbury's then turned around, looked at what Mars had done, and gone, that game I'm playing. and Heroes, there they go.
Whenever I see go to the supermarket and see those piles and piles of those containers. Sorry, as you say, Graham said, we will get onto ergonomics, but there's some really important things we need to cover off. What happens to all those plastic tubs?
Yeah.
Well, where do they all go? I mean,
I'll tell you what happens in our house is that they get used for baking goods. Yeah. I think you're right as well, Rebecca. I think those plastic tubs, because do you remember when when you're both too young. When I was a kid, my mum spent a lot of time going to Tupperware parties. Lots of time going to Tupperware parties where ladies sat around and I'm not being sexist in that because it was never men.
Yeah.
Sat around and brought these plastic containers. That was soon followed by Woolworths. You remember Woolworths? They started selling inanimate plastic objects called containers as well. And that was, everyone used to go out and do that. Nowadays, you go to shops to try and find plastic containers, right? It's actually harder than it used to be. And part of that is, I reckon it's all of these companies that produce plastic containers at Christmas that you put all of your chocolates in. Everyone's got a load of them in their cupboards.
And that ties in with, didn't I read a few weeks ago or months ago that Tupperware themselves are absolutely on their knees struggling? I'm sure I remember reading that. It's suddenly, and I'm sure that was what I read. They were like, their sales had just fallen. And actually you suddenly start thinking, I wonder, have they sort of struggled because of the reusing of other things?
And I think packaging has upped its game massively, hasn't it? You know, what used to be something normal is now in like a nice posh gift box, and you know it's metal or it's it's so they're easier to keep. Even me under here, I've got like drawers with boxes inside them, just keeping little bits, and under the sink the same. So yeah, a lot of them chocolate.
There you go. Well, that's probably the longest introduction without talking about anything of relevance whatsoever that we've ever done on Wow Ergonomics. But
that was all relevant. Take that back, Mr. Coath.
Okay,
it was all relevant.
All relevant because, but a lot of people might have thought, actually, are you talking economics rather than ergonomics? Well, yes, maybe we were. Maybe we just forgot how to spell it. But we have got Rebecca on. Rebecca, you have been on before, but for people that haven't ever met you before, do tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, so yeah, I have been on before. My first time I came on, I was actually in Turkey, wasn't I? I did a stream from the hotel room. Everyone was looking at me.
Hadn't you just landed like about 3 hours before or something like
that?
Like
the day. I think it was the evening. We landed about midnight, and I think the call was at like 12. So I was like, I'll be at the pool in a minute. But yeah, it was really fun. I love to be on, but I'm glad I had the opportunity to come on again now and chat and it be a bit clearer and stuff. So yeah, my name's Rebecca, and I've worked in sales, mainly manufacturing, for just over a decade now. And now I'm much more focused on not so much sales, more the mindset of sales and making a difference how people feel on the inside. So that's where I'm up to. I am a company hype girl, I would like to say. You've never heard of it, but that's what I am.
Yeah, explain that a little bit more for anyone that doesn't quite understand that. It's not speaking the modern lingo, as it were.
Yeah, so I think, in companies, there's so many things that get missed and overlooked, and the way people feel, or the way that things are getting in the workplace, for example. I just think things get overlooked. That's the best way to put it. But I think if you can have somebody in who can focus on building people up, whether that be on the way that they think, the way they act, the way that they're working, I think a positive mindset, a positive vibe brings for a better bottom line in the long run of all of it. And you get higher productivity and you end up with a better place to work. And I don't think that people take it as serious as they should do. And I think if somebody was in a company who was brought in just to be able to ensure that people was being heard, people was having conversations, and people was being brought up, and I think it will make a massive difference to the bottom line. I'm sure I've seen it happen, and I've done it myself. So yeah, I want to just be able to go in and speak for a little person,
isn't it? It's a really good point, isn't it, Steve? I mean, how many times when you're going to show people things to do with ergonomics, for example, in a business, do you think this is actually really hard because the mindset of the people, both the people that run the business, but also the people who you're trying to talk to about stuff, isn't in the right place to take that information in a positive light, because it's almost like, I come to work, it's pretty miserable, I'm not enjoying it, I'm not feeling too great, and now someone else is coming in to tell me this now on top of all of this, and I'm busy and I'm trying to do this. Taking in well-being advice it's not a great place to start telling people that stuff if their mindset isn't in the right place in the first place.
People tend to sort of shut down, don't they, really, and not really maybe appreciate or understand there's lots of things out there that can help them, but they almost, the shutters come down, and therefore they don't sort of take these things on. And instantly, as Rebecca was talking, cup of positivity, nice.
I love that.
For anyone listening back on Spotify, Graham, this is where you usually say, anyone listening back, that's usually your line.
For anyone listening back, I just showed the camera my mug actually says cup of positivity. But that's what it's about, isn't it? I mean, ultimately, if you create a positive mindset within your business, if you think about all of those companies that have really grown and exponentially grown over the last decade or so, and you look at why they've grown, the main aspect of that is great company culture. It's about people want to work there. People want to work there because you know, they feel valued within that culture. They feel like, you know, they feel like they're part of it. They're not just part of a system. They're part of something that is trying to achieve something. That's a reason to get up in the morning, isn't it, and go to work, etc. And then everything else comes into that, because business owners, if they're creating that culture, they have a different mindset in terms of what's going on with their staff, because they won't see it as like, goodness, we've got to spend money on that. Goodness,
that's it. First thing they think.
Yeah. Oh, we've got to, you know, what? Why is John complaining again? They're thinking about it like, I don't want people complaining. I don't want negativity within this business. I don't want, you know, bad attitude.
I think people are scared of it as well. I think people are scared of it if they don't understand it, you know, mental health and mental well-being. I think if people don't understand what it's like to be depressed or to have those bad days and stuff, then they're not going to know how to handle that either, or the effects of that. So they are just going to be like, John's whinging again and he needs to be online doing this, and it's seen then as frustration, and then nothing's getting solved. But if somebody had a conversation with John and was like, well, actually, you know, that would make the difference, wouldn't it? That one conversation with John, actually, or someone who understands it and then can help somebody else understand it better, I think.
Yeah. You made a point there, Graham, that sort of just got me thinking. You said about people wanting to work somewhere. I think the really obvious piece on top of that is that people then don't want to leave. Yeah. And I think sometimes that's massively underestimated, because you think, you know, how many times you've worked for an organization that struggles to move forward because they're constantly turning over staff. Someone's leaving, and you get that constant churn, and those companies aren't able to grow because you get people in who are good and then leave. You then have to bring someone else in. You have to then spend months and months training them up. And I think that's just as important. As not only is it somewhere where it's aspirational to go and work somewhere, actually on the flip side, people don't want to go. And I think, you know, when talking about mindset, and also it sort of feeds in and sort of bleeds a little bit into the ergonomics as well, isn't it? If people have got a good physical setup and they're comfortable physically in their work as well as mentally in their work, you get staff retention, you get loyalty, and you don't have that constant churn of staff in and out. And that is what, to me, sort of undermines or hamstrings a lot of companies. They can't grow because there's just such a turnover of staff. And that often is sort of either overlooked or underrated as to how much of an impact that is on businesses growing.
Now, as you said a minute ago, I was completely wrong to do it, and because all of that conversation we had at the start was completely relevant, and I'm now going to bring the segue in.
Here we go. I
can do it so that Rebecca can then pull up from there. So let's go back to our conversation about the wonderful Advent calendar. Demonstration here, okay. Advent calendar. What does the Advent calendar really represent?
A build-up.
It actually represents something to look forward to every day, doesn't it? Right? And that is what's missing for a lot of people in their company culture. Something to look forward to every day. Yeah.
I love that.
Rebecca's now going to extrapolate that information and expand on it wonderfully.
Thank you so much. I think thank you so much for putting me on the spot like that. Yeah, I think, like you say, you can look forward to go to work for loads of different reasons. There's incentives, things like that will make you more happy to go to work. But I think to be a part of something is massive. When I've worked in any company, to feel a part of something, like somebody cares about me, I want to care about them, and I want to go to work for that and achieve greatness, you know. And I think that's what it is. It's a feeling, isn't it? It's a feeling of being wanted, being accepted, and then being heard as well is massive. It's so massive. Like, imagine if you was going to work today knowing that somebody valued your opinion enough to hear it. You would want to go to work and give that opinion then. But if you was going to work every day, it's falling on deaf ears, you wouldn't want to go there. You wouldn't want to be there or be a part of it. And I think as well with investing in your staff as well, you know, you want to invest in your staff and say, you know, if you can come and work here and do this, you can work towards your own career goals and your own things to get this, and make it about them. It's not just about you, it's about what you can offer them as a person, and then in return they give you that back in so much more.
And now let's use Stephen's example, which was the box of chocolates, where there's there's wonderful delights in there. But actually, what happens is when you get your turn to open the box of chocolates, it's all the bits that you don't want, right? Because everybody else has had first pick, right? Now that really is very indicative of a company culture where when you actually try and put out this kind of well-being service, what you don't do is you don't focus in on the individual. You just chuck it out there and do like tick box exercises and everything else. So actually it just feels like all of that information is kind of secondhand.
Yeah,
really, to you.
Totally get that.
If you went round with that box of chocolates and for every person that opened it, it was their favorites inside, just think of the reaction that you would get from, yes, exactly that.
Yes.
Which is what some of those chocolate companies have started doing now. Did you know you can now get like a whole tub of just the one? Yeah.
I think just the purple ones, can't you? You can get just the purple ones.
Well, what they've done in some supermarkets, they've started doing vending machines as well, where you can fill it up with the proportion that you want. Right, so that it's right.
People want the personalisation, though, don't they? They want it to be. It's not about a little thing. It's about they want it to be work just for them. It's hard then to market mental well-being as a whole because it does need to work for individuals. The same as ergonomics, I assume. You know, it's not just a circle.
Exactly. So that's what I'm going to say. I think whereas back in the 1970s, it might have worked perfectly all right within an organisation where we had micromanagement and everything else, and everything was very hierarchical and whatever else. It might have worked perfectly all right to have a box of chocolates where you started with the management at the top and you said, you pick first. And then as you get round to people lower down in the organisation, you go, there you are. Have a chocolate. You're having a chocolate, and they look in, and it's those ones that nobody wants, and they go, "Oh, great, thanks very much." And that was how everybody felt within the organisation. These days, you can't do that. Whoever you're going out to within the organisation, they want their favourite, and that's what you've got to offer them. There you go.
I love this. I love what you did.
Stephen's just amazed.
No, I know it's absolutely, but it sort of got you thinking as well. And I think tying it back in a little bit, when you do get to the ones at the bottom that no one wants, why should some people not get what they want and other people get what they want? So that's the whole thing, isn't it? You've got to make sure that everyone is getting what they want, because if you don't do that, those people who aren't then sort of feel a bit disengaged, disenfranchised. And like we just said about retention, you then start to get people sort of, moving away and things like that. So you have got to do that, haven't you?
Yeah, I have actually seen that in the past. I've seen that in the past in organisations where, especially around things like seating, where it's been a case of, and this has got no kind of medical background to it, or no kind of other structure to it whatsoever. It's a case that they say, right, when we place the order, all of the senior management, they get the better chairs. Yeah, and everybody else will have those. Right? Not the person that actually has a back condition needs a chair for them that's a bit better because actually they've got a back condition.
They need it,
Or that person who has a disability who actually needs something a little bit special, they get that. No, the senior management will have the very expensive level ones with everything on it, and everybody else can have the basic ones. I mean, that's immediately saying
it's like status gives you privilege, doesn't it? If you've got a bigger status, you automatically are entitled to a better working life. When we all want the same working life, don't we? We should all get a good chair. We should all have a good chair.
Well, I think either that or a good leader these days will either say, right, we all get a good chair, or this is what the company can afford right now. We're all get the same. We'll all get the same until we all help the company get to the next level, and then we can all have a better chair.
I think again, like you say,
you're using the chair as an analogy there, but actually it's absolutely right. If you want to get people engaged and bought in, they need to see that they're sort of, like we said before, they need to be seen that they're sort of part of the whole process. If you see them over there getting this and we're getting something else, it all ties back into that sort of, how do you grow? when you've got a lot of people sort of disenfranchised with the organisation. So it's really, and I think people are starting to slowly realise this, aren't they? That it's got to be, if you want to move forward, everyone's got to be in on it. You can't afford to leave behind so many people, because it just won't. As much as those people will try and drive it forward, other people are going to hold it back, because that's how they've been made to feel.
Yeah.
I think it's easily done as well, though, you know, as much as, you know, we're not calling out all businesses here. I think sometimes it's a case of, you know, having the knowledge and not having the knowledge, and then maybe sometimes just overlooking it and not even thinking about the person over there that's watching all this happen, and just thinking, well, I'm doing a good thing here, and then not actually looking at the wider ripple effects of it. So I think it's about, you know, educating people and companies as well to go, well, when you're looking at this, have you thought about this? And, you know, and teaching them. And I suppose same in your industry as well, Stephen, you know, people might not have thought that necessarily there was an issue with the way the desk was, or the way that, you know, it was positioned, but you might go, well, actually, that's going to have a massive effect. And as soon as they find out that there is a massive effect, then they can implement that and change it. And the same with mental health, the same with anything, really.
Yeah, no, that's true. Where is there still a big disconnect, really, between management and ergonomics, Steve?
Acknowledgement that there is a problem and a desire to do something about it. I think what I'd probably say, I still think we've touched on this. Yeah, did you like it? I was sort of thinking,
I love that.
Right. But I think it's the fact that I still think there's a level of ignorance, probably ties in with the mental health motivational piece that Rebecca's talking about, and with what we do from an ergonomic perspective. There's still that sort of, does it really make a difference? You know, putting your screen at the right height, is that really going to make you perform? Is that really going to take away the pain? I still think there's an element of that. And there is an element that it comes back to money. There's still some people can't tie together the investment in good, productive setups for people and what it delivers. And they just can't quite connect, and they see it as an unnecessary expense, or an expense that in their perception isn't going to bring a return on investment. And I still think that is the piece that people can't see. What, by me going and spending X number of pounds to do this for you people, what is it going to get? And I think that's the missing sort of piece for me from an ergonomic perspective, is that they just can't quantify what they're going to get. Like we've said before, you're going to get better performance, you're going to get better staff retention, all those things. But sometimes management can't see that, and therefore still don't go and invest or investigate.
So I want to ask Rebecca on that. Is it about where you position yourself as management within a business as to why you can't actually see that happening? So I'm going to bring in a book title. What's great about where I now work is that I now have like all of my resources right next to me. So props, I can just pull them in.
Here's one I made earlier.
Yeah, like my little Lego man earlier, I can just pull him in.
Pull it in a book.
But now I'm going to pull this in, which is a book which has got absolutely nothing to do with the subject that we're talking about. But the title of the book actually really helps, because, and to some extent, I'm going to explain this now. The book's called Seeing Sideways. Okay. And what's really interesting about that is that actually what it's talking about is that quite often we don't understand relationships properly, because we're trying to see them sort of from here down, right? Like, and in that case, it's about sort of parent to child relationship. But actually, when we start to actually sit next to and see sideways at the relationship, we understand it better. Is the problem with a lot of management that they're actually still looking down there at people, as opposed to sitting here with people and actually going, oh my word, I can see exactly what's going on.
Word. Yeah, massively. And I've seen it in, you know, more than one manufacturing facility, or whereas, especially those types of setups. If you think about it, you know, even down to the metal mezzanine floor, you know, you're literally looking down on the warehouse staff, you know, in many cases. And, you know, I've had conversations, and this is kind of where I pulled away and wanted to do this, you know, for myself, because I've had conversations with people in the warehouse where things were just getting massively overlooked. And because no one was on the floor, nobody was having the conversation. And then when I was saying, like, why don't you because I'm obviously a bit new, a bit different. I'm like, why are you not talking to somebody about it? Like, have a conversation, big conversation. And they're like, oh, we don't speak to the white suits. Like, so there's a divide, and that's in so many companies, isn't there? There's a divide with like their office, we're warehouse. And, the company I was at for nearly a decade, I was the in-between massively. We was all in it together. And, thanks for what you're doing, thanks for what you're doing. And we'll all eat together. We'll all, there's even segregation when it comes to, I've worked in food and coffee and stuff delivered to the door, like on the weekly, we've got all these amazing things. And then the warehouse stuff, they're still paying for tampons. Like hang on a minute, how about we stop getting strawberries and we make sure that people can be comfortable in work? But then I don't think it was a case of somebody going, well, we're having strawberries and they're going to struggle. I think it was a case of nobody took the time to actually get on the floor and go, hang on a minute, what are these working conditions like? And are we actually putting too much on them? And, I think the same with ergonomics and the same with mental health. I can't put a monetary value on what it's going to offer you to be able to invest in this. Of course, I can pull out stats of, this happens, this happens, this happens. But until you can say to somebody, you invest this, and then I'm going to give you this back in terms of money, they do start to see it as an expense, because you can't put an actual value on it, even though the value is that large. That's why you can't put a value on it, because it's going to have such a ripple effect in so many areas. But because you can't pinpoint that and go, it's going to make you save this amount of money, that's where people go, oh, I'm not really quite sure. And you have to really trust in it and have a desire. Like Stephen said, you have to have a desire to want to get on the floor and ask them, are they all right? Do you care? And if you don't care, get out of management.
I mean, it's interesting. I think I gave this example a couple of weeks ago when we spoke, but I, went out a few months ago to a large hospital trust, and it was interesting talking to them. And they had, I think it might have been last week I gave this example, but they had a really good sort of approach. Obviously you think of public sector, you think of the NHS, it's clearly under financial pressures. So you'd think, actually, would they be the sort of people who'd want to go and invest in good product for their staff? But actually really interesting talking to the people there, their biggest challenge was sickness. It was actually absenteeism. So what they've said, look, we need to go and invest, because our biggest challenge is sickness and how many hours we're losing on people. So they would go and invest in product. They could actually see it because it was very tangible to them. They recognized what their biggest problem was and what they needed to do to reduce that. So they were investing in the right areas. And it wasn't just necessarily ergonomic equipment, it was other things as well. But they recognized to bring that down, they had to invest here. And that was, and I'm not saying that's the same with all parts of that organization. And I'm not saying lots of, corporate organizations aren't. But I think once people realize doing one thing creates another or addresses another problem, then they get it. But I think you've got to recognize that. It needs people within a business to recognize doing this addresses that. Then I think it becomes something that can be managed and resolved.
Look, and then let's just say here as well, we're not being unrealistic. We're not being naive, should we say, here, and thinking, look, every business has got an open checkbook to invest heavily in terms of health and well-being to all of the stuff, and actually make the perfect job, because actually that doesn't exist. Right?
No,
that really doesn't exist. But I think you can try, however bad in a way your business model is, or however kind of cutthroat your business model is in terms of even kind of staff costs or anything else. A kind of an example that sticks in my head of that is, and I actually worked for Wetherspoons for a bit. I don't know whether you know that, but I did it for 6 months.
There's a lot of, he always comes out with these stories. He's worked for about 53 companies, I think, in his life.
I've actually worked for very few companies, but Wetherspoons is one that I did for 6 months, and it was very useful because it was while I was starting my kind of ergonomics practice, etc., and it, it really helped. But a few years later, whilst I was in London, I got to meet Tim Martin, who owns Wetherspoons, and what was he like? Had a whole conversation with him. Well, he was being filmed at the time as well, because it was kind of around the time of Brexit, and he got quite strong views on that, etc. But what was really interesting was he walked into this pub of his in London, and he was met by the manager, who then started to introduce him to his kitchen staff, right, and his bar staff. Tim said, "It's okay. I know." He said, and he'd obviously learned it, but he'd learned every single name of every single employee in that building, right?
I love that. It makes such a difference. It makes such a difference.
And there were some tough conversations that I could hear that he was having with people, because it's not, this is not well-paid work particularly, and it's not great, some
antisocial hours a lot of the time, isn't it?
Antisocial hours, and some of the working conditions are quite difficult. It's hard work, right?
Yeah.
For not a lot of money. But to be fair to him, he stood there and had those conversations as management with everyone, and he listened, and he said, "I'm taking notes. I take notes and feedback on what any employee gives me, and we will discuss it at board level." And you just felt that everybody felt listened to. People felt listened to. So it might not be that you can do everything.
No.
Right? But what you can do is you can put yourself in that position with your staff where you are listening, and that you are on the ground floor. You must have been to a business where you've gone down to demonstrate stuff to people, and management have walked you down to a place, and they've gone, and I think we're seeing who and they're talking to their manager on the floor.
Yeah.
And who are we seeing here? Oh yes, this is Tim. I've gone funny again.
Yeah.
And clearly they have not a Scooby-Doo. They don't know. They don't know who this person is. They're working
rude.
for them. It is rude.
It is so, isn't it rude?
It's rude when ultimately you're saying, I will walk the special guest down to this area to introduce them to my staff, and I don't even know who the staff are. Right? How does that make the people that are working for you feel? Right? Of course, you may have a perfectly reasonable, I can't remember names for toffee. You might have a perfectly reasonable explanation for not knowing names. But what you do in that situation is you just learn that for that 5 minutes so that you do know, because otherwise it is rude. And I just think, if you're going to be a manager these days, you've got to put yourself in amongst your people. You've got to do it, and you've got to really understand that your people's needs, wants, and they're the things that are great, and you've got to understand the things that are not, and you've got to have those tough conversations. You've got to be prepared to have those tough conversations, and this is actually a massive part of ergonomics and where it's going really in 2024, which is that are we having enough tough conversations? Because I think if you're not having tough conversations with people, then you're going to struggle to get organisations to buy in, to be honest.
Conversations are free as well. That's the worst thing, like you're saying, you're not asking for an open checkbook at all. You don't have to be a millionaire to be able to think, how am I want to look into ergonomics, I want to make sure that my staff are, can I maybe change the height of this? There's little things you can do. Or same with mental health. You can have a conversation. You can go and ask someone if it's all right without it costing you any money. But it's having the conversations, isn't it? And
I think also there's a bit of a responsibility back on the individual as well, because we shouldn't just push it back on management. Because I always remember one of the first things I was taught is you need to manage upwards. So actually, there's a responsibility on the individual to challenge. If it's got to work the other way up as well. So there's a bit of a double responsibility on all of this. We've talked about management and called them out, but if you're not comfortable with your workspace, if you're not feeling motivated and engaged, you've got a responsibility to do something about it as well. So it needs to be a two-way street, doesn't it?
I agree with that, but I think the problem that typically stops that from happening is company culture.
Yeah, it's space, having an open space to be able to.
And I wonder, and I'd love to see a show of hands for this, but I wonder if I ask people across LinkedIn today, how many companies would still say, when it came to things like formal assessments with their staff, how many people are doing it once a year, right? and it's done in a way where the manager assesses the member of staff and nothing else.
First
Right?
hand. Oh.
Right? Because if you are, you're doing it wrong, categorically. Because in this day and age, if you're not creating a culture where that is 360, where people feel that they can constantly ask for feedback and that's not a negative thing, then you'll get that. That's so you do have to, you're right, people need to speak up, but people need to feel that they can speak up within that.
Yeah, agreed.
Within that culture, without it being detrimental to the fact that they might lose their job. So it does really need to, you know, that's where management need to get it right. They need to be telling organisations or getting that out for organisations, really.
If you can, because I think if you can manage somebody well, you know, and you say, you know, I've not coerced somebody, but, you know, if you lead somebody into a conversation, you make that space open for them. I think even if somebody typically wouldn't say something, if you give them that space to say something, then potentially they would, and especially when it comes to conflict, losing my job. People are a bit scared. I love to challenge, and I love to be challenged. Like, come to me, tell me, because I want to learn. But I think it's maybe, you know, the older ways, it was told to like put up and shut up, go to work, you do your job, you go home. You're not allowed to go and to say that and just be like, well, I don't like the way I work, because go get your coat on then, love, someone else wants your job. And that would be it, wouldn't it though? That's it, wouldn't it? But I think now, you know, it's our responsibility as, you know, management teams and, you know, people of seniority, you know, people are looking up to us, and we need to be able to, and to say, you know, to encourage the conversation. And I think that's so much more on management than it is on the individual, because you come to work to grow in all aspects, don't you? And it's your job as a manager to help you grow. Even teaching them to say that, you know, they might not have that in them initially, but you could teach them to come and speak out and challenge, and that should be part of your role.
I was just thinking that was the sound clip for this whole episode, Steve.
Yeah,
when it comes
there
out,
you go.
will be
Sorted.
Get your coat, love. Someone else.
Actually, though, because that's literally that's what it used to be, didn't it? You know, you were told you weren't like that.
It really did. Yeah, it's like it's when you watch those those history documentaries of like working in factories and whatever in the past. Have you ever seen like with what's that lady Ruth with the ginger hair that's like does that kind of like back in time type documentaries where they go like, you know, this is what it was like in Victorian times. They did a whole one where it was like seamstresses in a sewing factory or whatever, and they took it through the decades. I don't know whether you saw that.
No, but so that's something I would watch. That is something I would watch.
And there was this bit where there was a period where, if for example, I mean, people can't fathom this now, where if any of the women that were on the line, they got pregnant, they had to leave their job. They had to leave their job. That was immediately an immediate dismissal. Can you imagine that? Right,
crazy.
But in years to come, this is what people have got to think. We look back on that now and go, "That's bonkers." People are going to look back on now and look at some management processes that still exist and go, "That's what you did an assessment with someone about how well they're doing in their job once a year. That's bonkers." So what? And then you bring them in and sit them down after a year and you go, "You haven't done very well this year, have you?" Wow. I thought I did okay. Well,
you haven't done what I was doing, all right?
You haven't spoken to me for 12 months.
Literally not spoken for 12 months.
I haven't talked to you for 12 months, but I've been watching you, and you haven't been doing it the way I wanted.
Why didn't you come and speak to me?
Yeah.
That is bonkers, right? If you'd have been communicating that all the way along, saying, "Actually, should we sit down and have a chat about how you do?" You know what? Oh, you don't understand. Oh, right, you don't get this. Okay, I didn't know you didn't get this. Should we talk about it? Oh, I see. You've got particular ways of doing something, and I don't understand that. Can you explain those things to me? Oh, now I get it. So you're that kind of person. Well, that's great. Actually, if you can do it that way, that's fine. We just need to put this in place for you. It's not rocket
Literally.
science, is it? It's not rocket science, folks.
No.
And that's it. You hit the nail on the head then, Steve. And like you say, you've not spoken to me for 12 months. You know, you can't come in and say to me that, you know, there's all these opportunities every single day. It doesn't have to be a big, massive board meeting with everybody taking time of the day. It's just like, oh, can I have a minute? And you're all right. You know, it's a quick chat, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Now, let's finish on a little bit of a festive high.
Yes.
Okay. I mean, actually, I know we've got more weeks to go before Christmas, but not many now. Not many now.
2 more shows.
Is there still time if people were to want to buy the gift of great posture for their friends and families for Christmas? Is there still time to order? That's what we want to know.
Always time. There's always time to order.
Always time.
Always time.
Right. Okay. So, what would your recommendations be for the sort of general solopreneur working from home? Just a few quick little tips. What should, if you're out there now and you're listening to this and you're thinking, my husband or wife or favorite person in the world works from home and they're always saying that they're feeling a bit uncomfortable, what would your sort of favorite tips be, or favorite products be, in terms of what they should be looking for in terms of helping them out this Christmas?
Good question.
Good question. I would say, I mean, the obvious one, and I'm making a guess here as to how Rebecca's working, judging by the angle of a camera, and I could be wrong here.
Don't look at how I'm working.
I always think the key to a good setup, and you know this, Graham, from your years of assessing, is getting the screen at the right height. So I would say,
so it should be here, shouldn't it?
Yeah. So I would say if you're if the person in your life you want to buy something for is working at home on a laptop and they're not putting it at the right height, I would say a laptop stand is the ideal ergonomic Christmas gift. That's the right answer.
Easy to wrap as well.
Sorry?
Easy to wrap as well. Easy to wrap, isn't it? For the box.
Yeah. Looks like nice and flat, easy. Even I could wrap it neatly. There's no awkward corners or things like that. It's all very flat, like a big envelope. So yeah, that's what I would say.
If you're an ergonomics dealer out there and you indeed sell any of Stephen's company's laptops, then why not offer to wrap it for clients as well?
Yes, that's such a good idea.
Do a wrapping service so that they can actually just hand them out as Christmas presents.
There you go.
Just saying.
Good idea.
Yeah.
Now, what we must say, as we've commented on the angle that Rebecca is on this call, Rebecca, after this call, you have to send us a picture
I know.
where you're sitting, so we can see what we can do to improve it.
I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
Well, she was in Turkey last time, so it was a little bit of a sort of pseudo environment.
Yeah.
It was.
So we couldn't
still doing it now.
You couldn't really guess how I was working, but I work awfully. I work so bad. I really need ergonomics. I need the knowledge and I need the equipment. I need all of it.
Well, there we go. So we've had lots of great advice today. Thanks so much to Rebecca for coming, and we'd love to finish on something not kind of ergonomics related. So I'm just going to whiz round quickly to the whole group here and ask, favorite Christmas film? Rebecca.
Oh my God. I don't have a favorite Christmas film. No, I literally put anything on and I'm here for it.
All right.
Sorry. Maybe I'll think about it.
Yeah, you have a think about it for 2 minutes while I ask Stephen. Favorite Christmas film?
Always like Polar Express. But the one that's always controversial is it or isn't it a Christmas film? Is Die Hard.
Die Hard.
No, it's not a Christmas film.
It happens at Christmas. Yeah. It's like it's one of those where all the men go, it's a Christmas film because it happens at Christmas and I want to watch it. So
that's why I mentioned it. I know it tends to be a little bit Marmite, doesn't it?
Okay, I'm going to say then, this is a little bit of advice for you all out there. Look, if you want to have an action hero with all the muscles and all of that and, some fighting and all of that going off in a Christmas film that actually is a Christmas film and whatever, and you can't go for Die Hard and you still want the family to watch it, whatever, Jingle All the Way is the way to go there. That's the way to go. Arnold Schwarzenegger as, what's he called? Turbo Man. That's it, Turbo Man, the toy. And all parents at some point, we've all been through that experience where we've been out to buy that toy and it's gone everywhere. So we all understand that premise. I still think, though, that the best Christmas film of all time has to go to Elf. Has to.
Oh, I knew you were going to say that. It's cliche.
It is cliche, but it's just so good. It really is so good.
Elf is amazing. Elf is amazing.
I thought you were going to say Bad Santa for a minute, Graham, but clearly you didn't.
No. And bringing it up to date with the Elf film, if anybody's on the Instagram at the moment and out there looking at their Instagram account, by the way, we've resurrected the Wow Ergonomics Instagram account.
Come back.
Please do follow that. There will be some clips from this going on to that later today. But if you're fine, look up. There's a father that turns up at his daughter's school dressed as Elf to collect her at the last day of term.
Oh,
she is.
I'm gonna cry already.
She is horrified.
Yeah, I bet
Absolutely horrified. Especially as he then follows her around going, I love you, and all of this, and does the whole Elf thing.
Awesome.
Awful. Folks, if you're having that idea, just don't do it.
Yeah, do not do it.
Yeah, do it.
Your teenage kids will disown you forever and a day. Stephen, thank you so much for coming in today. It's been a great chat. It's been both informal and informative, which is the best way. Rebecca, thanks for coming on again as well.
Thanks for having me.
Please do check out previous episodes of this at wellergonomics.com. Please do share this with your friends and your family, or anybody that you think actually doesn't have a Scooby-Doo's about how to look after people in the workplace and actually needs to hear the conversation. That would be marvelous. Until next time, we'll be back soon. In fact, Stephen, I think you've got a week off next week.
I have. I'll be back on the 22nd.
He'll be back on the 22nd, which is just in time for ding dong Christmas. Enjoy yourselves, folks. Bye for now.
See you later. Bye.